All right, well, welcome everybody. Sure appreciate you tuning in today to learn a little bit about cryptocurrency investing in an IRA. It's a new year, and this might be a new IRA strategy for you. We're happy to share some information about what we know and also tell you what we don't know. This is certainly an investment strategy that's gotten a lot more attention in the last several months. And so we definitely have account holders who are interested in and participating in this type of investment with their IRA and health savings account in some cases, as well as some other account types. So again, delighted that you're here and sharing this event with us, and we will get started here right away. My name is Clay Malcolm, and I will be your co-host today along with my colleague Renika Lightborn. And I've been a self-directed IRA professional since 2011, and I've also been a self-directed IRA investor since that very beginning. Those two interests kind of coincided for me, so I'm not only an educator when it comes to self-directed IRAs, but also a participant. So have a keen understanding and empathy for what we all go through as IRA investors, looking for investments and executing those investments and plotting our own strategy. So happy to be here with you today, and I'm going to let Renika introduce herself.
Thank you, Clay. Welcome, everyone. I hope your New Year's off to a great start. Again, my name is Renika Lightborn. I am one of the business development specialists here in the Atlanta market. I've been with Advanta since 2019. But like Clay, I'm also an active self-directed IRA investor. So I'm an Advanta client prior to actually joining the Advanta team. For me personally, I have an interest in cryptocurrency as well. I use my Roth IRA to invest in digital assets. If you have any questions relating to crypto or self-directing as a whole, don't hesitate to reach out to Clay or myself, whether it's via call or an email, or I'm setting up a consultation at advantaira.com. So with that, just a quick disclaimer before we get started. At Advanta, we don't give any tax, legal, or investment advice. We strongly encourage you to do your due diligence, especially when it comes to cryptocurrency, just because it's a newer asset, it's a lot more volatile. But we encourage you to consult with your professional team, whether it includes your financial advisor, your attorneys, your CPAs. You definitely want to do your due diligence before making any investment decisions.
Yeah, and I also want to just encourage you, Renika was mentioning that we're happy to be long-term resources of information, and we certainly want to be a resource of information today as well. So if you do have questions as we go along, please type them into the questions box, and we'll answer those at the end of the presentation. Renika and I are probably going to take 30 or 40 minutes to kind of talk about the things that we see in the environment of investing here, and then we're happy to field some questions. So the questions box will be on your GoToWebinar console. All right. So when it comes to cryptocurrency investments, one of the things that we're always talking about when they interact with IRAs is you're going to be combining the tax advantages of the account type, and the account type can vary, with the investment returns that you might be able to garner in cryptocurrency. Now, this is true universally in terms of the assets that we handle. So at Advanta IRA, we handle all kinds of alternative assets, everything from real estate to precious metals, private equity, private lending, and of course cryptocurrency. So the fact that we at Advanta are able to and have specialized in the bookkeeping and the administration of accounts that can handle these alternative investments is really, that's the thing that you're trying to get from us. And as Renika was saying in the disclaimer, we're a very neutral part of the equation. We're really just here to document the activity of the account so that you get to keep the tax advantages. But you're combining that ability of that account with the returns that you might be able to get in an alternative asset. So at its core, that's what we're talking about today. And we're not going to spend as much time on those logistics as we would normally, because we're going to delve right into cryptocurrency and talk about the environment there, because it is relatively new to a lot of us, and it's really changing quickly. And so this is intended to give you a little bit of a map for how that IRA investment could take place in your financial world. So the things that are first and foremost, when we start to consider this arrangement, are choosing the account type. So the account types that we handle at Advanta are several. So traditional IRA, Roth IRA, health savings account. So you see that HSA up there. That's been particularly popular when it comes to cryptocurrency because the investment threshold level can be quite low. You don't have to have a ton of cash in order to invest in cryptocurrency. Each of those has different tax advantages. Obviously, traditional and Roth, most people are familiar with where the tax event is there. Traditional is taxed at the end, Roth is taxed at the beginning. In an HSA, you can actually create completely tax-free earnings because HSAs are pre-tax money in, tax deferred while the money is in the HSA earning, and also not taxed on the way out with a qualified distribution. So it's a way, it has tremendous tax advantages. So if you are eligible for an HSA, this is an asset class that has become more popular for HSAs, again, because of the low entry threshold. But you're thinking about, as the account holder, you're thinking about which account will, if you have this ability, which account will yield the best overall tax event. There's going to be taxes usually somewhere in the equation, but where do you want those taxes and how does it work best in your financial world? So you'll choose the account type, and we do also see cryptocurrency investments in solo 401ks, simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, and even some Coverdell education savings accounts. Again, low barrier or threshold of cash needed to invest, and ESAs have a relatively low annual contribution limit, so we do see some of that as well. So choosing the account type is I guess, decision number one. And then you start to think about how you're going to actually execute the purchase of the cryptocurrencies, right? So you'll be thinking about which of the cryptocurrencies that you'll want to invest in, and they are myriad and expanding all the time, and which exchange you might want to use, and part of the reason that you are thinking about the exchange is because the availability of cryptocurrencies, any particular cryptocurrency, is up to the exchange. So different exchanges offer a different roster of cryptocurrencies. So finding and having your investment be made in an exchange at an exchange that handles the cryptocurrencies that you want is really a key factor. And remember that the exchanges, and there are other ways to trade as well, but exchanges are really the place where the investment begins, because what you do is you send cash to that exchange and you purchase these cryptocurrencies. So it affects the change of fiat currency into a digital currency. And so exchanges are kind of a key component to the equation here. And then thinking about your strategy. Are you going to be a buy and hold kind of investor, or are you going to be an active trader? This is important because different platforms offer different trading dashboards as well as different trading capacity. So thinking about how much you're going to trade and the things associated with that, like speed and cost and that kind of thing, we'll talk about that as we go. But thinking about what kind of a cryptocurrency investor you want to be is one of those kind of cornerstone decisions that you make at the beginning. Storage is always a key component. You want to make sure that, to whatever extent you can, you protect the cryptocurrency that your IRA owns. So there are also a number of different types of strategies when it comes to storage. So it could be cold storage or storage on the internet that has different levels of security and things like that. So thinking about what level of storage or what type of storage will make you comfortable is an important decision as well. And then I always, no matter which IRA investment strategy you choose, I always encourage everybody to think about the end game. So how are you going to liquidate that if you are? Are you going to take in-kind distributions of the assets that your IRA owns? And a lot of that is speculation, of course, because typically we're taking distributions, many years down the road, or at least a few years down the road for some of us who are a little older. But thinking about the end game is always something that I encourage people to do. Okay, this is what I'm getting into. This is my exit strategy, at least at the moment. So this is how it's going to benefit me and fit into the rest of my financial world. And I mentioned the fact that the exchanges are a key component when it comes to this equation. And part of the reason I say that is because the really cool thing, or one of the very cool things about cryptocurrencies, is its decentralized kind of accessible nature, right? So that you can access it from, your laptop or your phone and things like that, and it's easily transferable and that kind of stuff. So the access is really great and very personal. Now, the way that runs into a little bit of a conflict of interest for IRA custodians, and providers like Advanta, is that we are mandated by the IRS to have custody of all of the assets that your IRA owns, hence the name custodian. And also, if you think about it, an IRA is a little mini trust, and it's taxed differently than you personally, and so the IRS is tracking it. And make no mistake about it, all IRA custodians are part of that tracking process. That's why these dollars that you contribute to an IRA that have a different tax status, that's why they have to be handled by a custodian, is because the IRS is tracking that money, right? Okay, so we're supposed to have control of it, but access to cryptocurrency is really just about having the correct numbers or keys or things like that to get at the crypto. So it's, by its very nature, it's very tough for us as custodians to have custody of these types of assets. So, and the exchanges, which have come online, in these last several years, they are an entity that has to keep up with a lot of changing regulation, changing security needs, and as well as customer service and just basic execution of what their function is. So they've had a lot to deal with as well. And so in some cases, the exchanges have looked at IRAs and the need to have not only just a person who is kind of making the trades, but a custodian involved in that whole mechanism. It's been more than they wanted to handle. And so there are a lot of exchanges that don't really understand how to work with IRAs and just choose not to as part of their business model. No harm, no foul, but it has created a situation where the arrangements between IRA custodians and exchanges and your ability to invest in crypto has, in some cases, been a little bit frustrating to do research on. In some cases, it's been a little bit frustrating to execute the strategy that you've had. And in some cases, the arrangements that have been forged have had really high expense associated with them for a variety of reasons. And so the idea of the IRS and their rules for IRA custodians and cryptocurrency exchanges and even some of the other rules that are associated with IRA investing, it really has been a bit of a soup, right? And so, but there are more and more options emerging as time goes on. Everybody is figuring out this environment, and so more options are coming online. And we'll talk a little bit about what we do, how we handle it, and what other options we've seen out there and things like that. But do understand that the core concept of the exchange and the core concept of the IRA custodian, it's not necessarily a super easy match or relationship that can be, just everybody can do it, that kind of thing. So I'll get right into how Advanta has chosen to work with cryptocurrency investing. We do it in two different methods. One is what I'm going to say today is the direct method. So you have an account at Advanta IRA, you have some cash in it, and that cash could be from contributions, or you did a transfer from another IRA, or you did a rollover from an old 401k or other type of retirement account, 403b, 457, thrift savings plan, etc. And you have a particular exchange that you want to get into, and we are able to create a relationship with that exchange. This has been difficult for us to do. I'm just going to own that. So we, at the moment, have agreements with two exchanges that we can do direct cash movements of funds from your IRA to that exchange. And the net effect of that is that you tell us, hey, I want to send X number of dollars from my Advanta IRA cash position to this exchange. we do that. We send that cash over. It lands on their platform. While it's on their platform, you do the trading or buy and hold or whatever it is that you are going to do there. And then at some later time, if you want to liquidate some of that and bring it back to your IRA to do distribution or to invest in something else, whatever it is that your chosen path is, then we can execute that transaction as well. So you see that right-hand column where the exchange sends cash back to Advanta IRA. Typically speaking, the storage option in this type of environment or arrangement is at the exchange. And the exchange itself may offer a few storage options. So thinking about where the storage is obviously part of the equation. So in this direct option, cash gets sent from your IRA to the platform, you trade on the platform, and then you send money back to IRA, to your cash back to your IRA to, again, either buy a different type of asset, take a distribution, transfer it out, whatever it is that you want to do. And remember that the cryptocurrencies that are available are a function of the exchange. The second way that we offer folks an opportunity to invest in crypto is through an LLC, typically known as Checkbook Control. And so in this scenario, and this does take a little bit more setup because it does involve an LLC being essentially a wholly owned subsidiary of your IRA. But in this scenario, the cash that's in your Advanta IRA, and again, that can be traditional, Roth, HSA, any of the account types we handle. An LLC is created. The IRA purchases usually 100% share, so it's usually a single member LLC. And I'm using LLC as a placeholder here too. It doesn't have to be necessarily an LLC. It could be a different type of entity, but LLCs are by far and away the most popular. The IRA buys 100% share of the LLC. The LLC then names usually the account holder as the manager of that LLC, and the net effect of that is that the account holder is now writing checks on IRA money, and it's doing so in the name of this corporate entity, this limited liability corporation that has a single owner, which is the IRA, and what that is doing is making it so that the LLC's investments are all under the auspices of the tax advantages of the account type. Right, so all the LLC's investments and their earnings, hopefully, and not losses, are encompassed within that IRA, and so they get to keep the tax advantages that are associated with the account type. Because an LLC is a legal and financial entity, it can then go out and create relationships at exchanges or brokerage houses. It can buy real estate. It can do all the types of investing that self-directed IRAs are allowed to do. But in this case, we're focusing on cryptocurrency. So the key here would be not only the exchange in as much as its roster of cryptocurrencies, so making sure that they handle the ones that you want to be in, but also that they work with LLCs. So again, exchanges all have different business models. They, generally speaking, charge different fees. So they are another part of your due diligence equation. And in this case, I would say that the due diligence equation has to do with your IRA custodian, the exchange, the cryptocurrency, at a minimum, and certainly storage and those kinds of things are kind of corollary to that. So this is the way that we are allowing people to get into cryptocurrency. And the reason that we've done this is because of the very few relationships that we've been able to create for direct relationships with the exchanges. More exchanges work with LLCs than they do directly with IRA custodians. And so the LLC gives you the opportunity to create relationships or accounts at exchanges that you might want to, and they may not work directly with IRAs. And then the storage option, of course, then becomes a choice at the exchange, or is there some other way that the LLC wants to do the storage at the LLC level? And this method also allows you very easily to use multiple exchanges. So if that's part of your strategy as well, that's an easy thing to do. It doesn't have to be just two. You can do as many as you want. As I mentioned before, that Checkbook Control LLC as a subset of your IRA has a lot of agility to it, and you have the ability to put that money into all kinds of investment vehicles. Yeah. And so cryptocurrency investing considerations. I'm going to just go through some of the things that we see in the environment. I'm going to talk a little bit about fees on the next slide, and then I'm going to turn it over to Renika for a little bit of an overview about the cryptocurrency environment as it is today. But going back to some of the things I talked about at the beginning, are you going to be a buy and hold investor or a trader? And again, this is important because not all platforms offer the same type of trading, the same type of access. That could even be the day and time that you're allowed to get on there. There are definitely some cryptocurrency purchase and storage arrangements that have a lot of manual activity to them. Some of them are completely automated and on computer and digital and that kind of thing, but some of them have people involved in them. And so, choosing an arrangement that has the flexibility to execute the type of investment strategy that you have is key. I mentioned the fact that currencies are available at different exchanges. Each exchange has a different lineup, so making sure that matches for you. Speed at which you can buy and sell and what the process is. And I say this mostly because we're adding the IRA part in there. A lot of cryptocurrency exchanges are very, very fast. You log in with your credentials, you're able to trade quickly and be very agile. But again, because an IRA custodian is involved in this, there may be some additional time or logistics involved. So making sure that you know what that is ahead of time is certainly going to be to your advantage. I mentioned when can you buy and sell, hours of operation. That often has to do with the IRA custodian in a more manual process than it does a lot of exchanges, because again, a lot of exchanges are totally digital and very fast. What kind of technology do you need? Are you a person who likes to work on your phone? Is there an app? Is there not an app? Do you like to be more offline than online? Any of those types of things that are your preference, whether it comes to the storage option or the trading option, those are things that you want to think about ahead of time. So that you have the ability to execute your strategy. Can you move from one exchange to another? It's not uncommon for an exchange to decide to not handle a particular cryptocurrency. So what if you're in that? What then happens? Do you need to move exchanges? What kind of flexibility do you need there? I mentioned storage type. Again, offline and online are one of the main ways that you can kind of bifurcate that choice. So cold storage or warm storage, that kind of thing. But there are a variety of security options that are out there, and so doing some research on that and choosing what fits your profile is important. Insurance. What kind of insurance is involved? Does the exchange have insurance? Anything that, again, when you're doing these private investments in a self-directed IRA, you're not covered by the FDIC. The FDIC except when you have your cash in the cash position. But the investments themselves, they don't necessarily have insurance unless the exchange does, or you have purchased insurance for it, or something like that. So figuring out your tolerance for that and what would work best for you is a good thing there. And then obviously costs and fees. Those things obviously impact your ROI greatly. And taxes, of course, this is, the genesis of what we're talking about is trying to save taxes. That's why you're doing it in an IRA. So figuring out that is important. And I will talk a little bit more about that on this slide and then turn it over to Renika. And I'm going to talk about so not only will the exchange have fees, usually it's for trading, but they may have other fees as well. Certainly, certain storage options have particular fees that are associated with them, whether it's cold storage or warm storage. So finding out what that cost is going to be. And then, of course, IRA fee considerations. And this is one that's obviously, closer to our wheelhouse. But we've certainly seen, especially at the very beginning, there were some really, really high rates that were being charged by IRA custodians to get people into cryptocurrencies. Now, that is tended to be trending downward. So it's more cost effective, I would say, these days to do IRA cryptocurrency investing than it has been. But you want to think about the IRA part of it. Are they charging you annually or monthly? Is it a percentage or is it flat? Transaction fees. So both of the options that we offer, whether it's the direct option, operating your cryptocurrency investing at an exchange or doing it through an LLC, from our perspective, from the IRA fee perspective, those transactions, you wouldn't have any transaction fees. Now, you probably will at the exchange level. If you are making trades, there's probably going to be some fees on the exchange, but there aren't going to be any transaction fees from us as the custodian. But that's not always the case. So finding out, exactly what that is and calculating it into your ROI is important. Initial fee, we've certainly seen other competitors that charge, percentages. So this percentage or flat thing comes from, other operators that we've seen in our space. Storage fees I talked about, possibly multiple vendors. One of the scenarios that we've seen with some frequency is that the IRA custodian will have you go to a buyer that will actually buy the cryptocurrency for you, and in some cases store it on a particular device or in a particular manner. But that buyer may also charge a fee. So there may be other vendors in there that you have to consider and think about what their fees are. We've certainly seen some providers out there that have investment minimums or annual contribution requirements. Unfortunately, it's not apples to apples out there. And so what we've done in Advanta is try to stay with options that are low cost from an IRA fees perspective, and not get into very expensive arrangements that we then have to pass on to the account holders. So that's where we focused our energy, and we feel like we have two solid options for people that are low cost and have the ability to get into cryptocurrency investing. So that's some of the considerations, how we approach it, things like that. And at this point, I'm gonna turn it over to Renika, who's gonna talk a little bit about the larger kind of cryptocurrency environment.
Thank you so much, Clay, for going over the different steps and obviously the logistics of how to actually invest in cryptocurrency using your IRA. So with any new emerging opportunities, especially in crypto, there's greater volatility. We've all seen it, we've all experienced it. So you must do extreme due diligence. So far for the year, crypto itself has been off to a bumpier start. But if you're looking at this as a long-term view, it's very bright to be in this space. As an investor, you want to be able to find the best projects to put if you're considering putting it into your retirement account, whether it's a traditional IRA or Roth IRA, or a lesser account like an HSA. So on the other side of that volatility, the cryptocurrency world is going to grow exponentially. I'm a big advocate for the space. The total market cap right now for cryptocurrency is hovering a little under $2 trillion. And this is, again, it's off to a rough start this year. So if you're investing using your IRA, you want to be able to participate in the upside for cryptocurrency itself. Like Clay mentioned, all having those gains flow back into your retirement account, without any tax liabilities to you. So imagine if you're, brand new to crypto investing, or brand new to self-directing, and you have an HSA account, and it's a lesser threshold in terms of the amount that you can put in. Imagine finding a quality crypto project that you can purchase at 25 cents today, and then in a year or two it goes up to $2 or $3. That's exponential return for you to cover your medical expenses. So today I just want to share just high-level information on some of the trends to look out for in 2022, some of the different tools and resources, some of the fundamentals that I personally use as a guide to help me with my due diligence process. So for 2022, the trends to watch, anything opportunities related to metaverse, Web3, NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens, the gaming sector. So we see a lot of companies have or shifting into gaming, NFTs, and the metaverse. Metaverse is just more so, it's been gaining a lot of steam late, mid to last year, and obviously we expect that to continue for 2022. So the metaverse itself is just a virtual reality. GameFi is just a subset of metaverse. Right now in the U.S., the gaming industry is valued at a little more than 85 billion. So again, with proper due diligence, there's potential for self-directed investors in general, to kind of get in on the ground floor to invest in cryptos that enable gaming, or NFTs, or the metaverse as a whole. I do want to touch on just a little bit on Web3. It's the new buzzword you'll probably hear a lot this year. So Web3 is just more so the next generation of the internet. It's supposed to allow users to have greater control over, your data, your personal data, earning potential, but also the main objective is to build a censorship resistant or permissionless internet. For IRA investors, investing purposes, you do want to look at crypto projects that's going to service or help facilitate this new Web3 that everyone's talking about. In terms of NFTs, again, non-fungible token, it's more so a representation of the digital rights, or more so digital claim to something that's considered unique, or a unique asset. It can be both digital or physical. So last year we saw NFT really went mainstream pretty quickly. And most of our lives, especially with what's going on in the climate, is, most of our lives, or social interaction is moving or continuing to move online. So for 2022, NFTs are positioned to remain a big part of the crypto landscape, and is expected to experience further growth. There are a lot of big brands right now, big companies that are building out or expanding different use cases for NFTs. For example, NFT right now is being used to aid or utility purpose by tokenizing real estate. I know that's one of the main holdings we typically see our clients invest in, is real estate. Currently, there's no guidance regarding holding a cryptocurrency that invests in collectibles. And the reason I bring that up is because one of the few restrictions with the IRS is that you cannot invest in a collectible like art, which currently right now most NFTs is a representation of artistic or artist work. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Oh, let's go back. So another trend for 2022 is regulations. This is a hot topic among a lot of crypto investors. It's pretty clear that policymakers can't or won't continue to ignore regulating the crypto space. So regulation is foreseeable. Hopefully it happens in 2022. We see that there's more ongoing discussions from Congress and obviously various governing agencies. For most investors in this space, we're looking to see a sensible approach to how they're going to govern digital assets. That's going to, more importantly, allow investors, businesses, innovators, entrepreneurs to really thrive and not stifle the industry, because again, it's still budding, it's still new. Either way, we do know that regulation is expected to play an important role in the crypto market. With reasonable regulations, it's going to be good for the industry. It's going to be good for the U.S. as a whole. It's going to allow everyone to win. For self-directing investors, if we get sensible regulation, it's going to give more people the confidence to want to be able to purchase cryptocurrency in their retirement account. So another thing that I do want to emphasize is we're seeing more institution participation, more market participation by the large corporations, financial institutions. Quite a bit of recognizable brands already have taken an interest or, publicly investing into cryptocurrency. There's a strong indication that we'll continue to see that trend in 2022 and beyond. Big companies that are jumping in and allocating capital, or actually publicly disclosing that they have crypto on their balance sheet. So I expect more of that. For you as IRA investors, you want to be able to keep track of what particular projects these major companies or financial institutions are aligning their brand with. They're not going to align their brand with something that's not in their best interest. So you want to see, okay, that's an opportunity for you to get in on the ground floor and possibly purchase or invest in that particular crypto. So in terms of different resources, there's no shortage of cryptocurrencies. Like Clay mentioned, there's a bunch of them out there. I think when I looked at it late yesterday, there's over 12,000 crypto on the market, 12,000 plus. So that can be a challenge in terms of trying to sort through all of that data. No one pretty much, have the time or the bandwidth to do so. So part of which is you want to be able to know, where to find reliable sources of information to kind of help you make, the best decision or informed decisions before you actually make that investment, or more importantly, put it into your retirement account. So the list I'm going to go through, it's not end all be all, it's just a good guide. There's, many more or many other resources out there, but I hope that this can help you with sourcing through in terms of making good decisions for your retirement account. So the first one we're going to talk about is research platforms like the CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, CoinPeprica. These are similar platforms in terms of being able to track cryptocurrencies. They provide you insights on market cap, trading volumes, market performance, periodic gains and losses. Obviously, if you're making that investment in your retirement account, you don't have to worry about paying any taxes on those gains. Some other vital details includes any particular project that crypto may be developing. They're both, these particular platforms like CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko are for both, new and experienced crypto users. You want to be able to track to see how a particular project is performing. Also, there's a lot of educational resources that can kind of help you get up to speed about crypto in general. Other things include news reports, how the market's performing. This is typically the first place where you would go to just kind of get an overview of the marketplace. So next up, we have news outlets for publications like CoinDesk, Cointelegraph, ProCoin News, the Daily Hodl. So these are the news outlets that's going to cover the crypto space. CoinDesk and Cointelegraph have managed to kind of make themselves the leader in the space, but they offer a great insight in terms of, what's happening in the crypto market. It can be through a combination of news, opinions, posts, educational guides, press releases. As a crypto investor, or, whether it's long-term or, like Clay mentioned, trading, you want to be able to have access to these types of sites on a daily basis, just to, again, keep tabs on actually, what's happening in the crypto market, what's impacting your particular investment. There are other, reputable publications out there, but I just wanted to mention those ones. Next up, we have social media platforms like, Twitter, Telegram, Reddit, YouTube. So these are the social media platforms that have the strongest crypto communities. Telegram, for instance, is great for project communities, while Twitter allows you to be able to follow up on particular projects. YouTube, there's a lot of great content providers out there. Obviously, you want to, again, take things with a grain of salt, kind of expose yourself to multiple content creators out there and see which ones make sense to you. Next up, we have Lunar Crush, which is a social intelligence platform. It analyzes data from social network just to kind of gauge market activity, data transaction, but also to investor sentiment, which is pivotal in terms of what are people thinking, feeling about a particular project. And Lunar Crush also provides real-time insight on influences that may be able to have a positive or negative influence on a given project. And if you're looking at different content creators, you know that there are some pretty popular content creators out there that can sway a market just because they have a large following. Another one is Glassnode. Glassnode is actually a data intelligence tool as well. Another tool or resource you can look to use is Masari, and this is a platform that helps you collect cryptocurrency data, analyze charts, allows you to make better investment decisions, or at least give you a clear picture. You can screen or sort through coins or information and personalize it to your filter. So that's a really good resource. Next up we have is Crypto Miso. So Crypto Miso is a research tool that ranks cryptocurrency based on GitHub activity. It allows you to check on the number of commits and a given project within a given period of time. So this really gives you insight on terms of what's happening behind the scenes. For you as an investor, you want to be able to see that there's the particular project code or the technology is being maintained regularly or improved. So That's very important. Next up, I do want to mention Crypto Slate as well. It's more so a reliable platform for the crypto community. It uses a combination or blend of news, data, analysis, but it's broken down by sector. So, professionally, if you're in a particular industry, say you're in transportation, well, you can go to Crypto Slate and look at the different sectors, but you can kind of tailor it to the transportation industry and see which particular crypto is in that sector, and allow you to maybe look a lot closer at that project. So some of the things I personally look at, and this is not end all be all in terms of the fundamentals. I want to look at technology. I'm not the most technically inclined person, but I do look at technology to kind of get a feel of what's the use case, what actual problem it's attempting to solve. Is it something that can be applied today in the real world? Two, I'm looking at the team, like who are the people that's actually building out this particular crypto project? What's their history? What's their credential? Have they been affiliated with any other successful crypto projects in the past? Next, I'm looking at sustainability. Can it go to distance? There are 12,000 cryptos out there. How does it compare to other cryptos as a whole, or specifically in their niche? And then going back to partnerships, who are the major financial institutions or corporations that are publicly endorsing these cryptocurrencies or digital assets? Another factor is market capitalization, and that just used to measure the value of the crypto, looking at supply and demand. And next, you want to look at entry and exit point, so the price point. No one can really time the market. Again, this week it's been off to a pretty rough start, but having those predetermined entry and exit points, and diversification with self-directing as a whole. That's one of the core strengths. You get to diversify into many different assets, whether it's real estate or precious metals, and then of course cryptocurrency. But within cryptocurrency, of 12,000 cryptos that's out there, how do you diversify into different niches or sectors that allow you to have a good allocation of assets? And then just a combination of, hey, what's the latest news or trends, or the social impact, or regulation. So those are some things that I personally look at when I before I invest into a crypto or put it into my Roth IRA. I do want to close out, but before I do, I just want to mention that digital assets, like cryptocurrencies or NFTs, it's still very early. There's many facets of this rapidly developing space. We can all anticipate that the number of investors that's going to allocate a percentage of their IRA savings to have some exposure into cryptocurrency in the years to come will likely increase. Eventually, it may become the standard recommendation by financial advisors to have some type of crypto holding in your retirement account over the next maybe 10, 15 years, possibly sooner. But even though this is a new asset class and it has incredible potential, with self-directing, you're a steward of your money. You have to make sure that you're doing your due diligence. For the crypto space, you want to be able to make sure that you're monitoring the latest news and trends and the actual overall development of the ecosystem. Just like the traditional stock market, again, we saw the crypto market kind of fell last week based on possible, interest rate hikes in 2022. So for IRA investors, whether you're, most are long-term investors in terms of looking to hold to reach retirement, but whether you're trading or holding for the long term, you want to find or identify quality projects that, obviously everyone, the term is going to the moon, but you want to make sure that you find good projects, and you do that by looking at the fundamentals, whether it's in traditional markets or in the crypto market or self-directing market. You want to look at the fundamentals to make sure that you have, it's likely to be around for a while, and it's not going to easily, go to the wind or fail out just because of some market manipulation or fluctuation. The cryptocurrency space itself, the entire ecosystem is an interesting space to watch, but also to participate. regardless of whatever your strategy is. If you're a trader, actively trading in your retirement account, or if you're, looking to be a buy and hold investor. Clay, I think that covers pretty much what I want to give a highlight on. I know we have a lot of questions that came in.
Yeah. So why don't we just go ahead and follow up or close that part up with just saying, listen, this is an area of interest for a lot of folks. It's a very easy asset class to get into, and as are most of the other self-directed IRA assets that we handle. You simply opening an account with us, getting some money in there via contribution, transfer, or rollover, or some combination of those. And then once you've researched and decided on the asset that you want to purchase, just let our account manager know, your account manager, and we help you with the paperwork to execute the closing of that investment. And so the process it can seem a little daunting for folks who are first getting into self-directed IRAs, but the process is actually not terribly difficult, and it's something that we do for, I would say, we're getting pretty close to 9,000 active account holders, and so it's right down the middle for us, and we're happy to explain how it works and to get you started. And I will also just reiterate that something we said at the beginning is that we're happy to be ongoing resources for you in terms of self-directed IRA investing, any of the things that we've talked about in terms of cryptocurrency today. And please, if you have a scenario that you are thinking about and you want to see if there's anything that's a red flag from an IRS perspective, or how long it would take to achieve, or any of those kinds of scenarios, please do reach out to us. We're happy to answer those questions and discuss your potential strategy and see if we can help you make that go. All right. So let's for those of you who are, we're going to take some questions now from the questions console. If you do have questions, please feel free to type them in. We're happy to spend a few more minutes here answering specific questions. If it's time for you to go about the rest of your day, again, thank you very much for spending some of your time with us today. We hope the information was helpful and it gives you a sense of how your IRA or other tax-advantaged account can participate in cryptocurrencies and what types of things you need to think about and to be able to start to craft your strategy. So again, thank you for joining us today, and let's take some questions. Renika, do you mind if I kind of read them out and see how we handle them?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take a couple of the logistics ones right away, since that was kind of my area today. Do we know which exchanges handle LLCs? Great question. I wish I did. We don't keep a comprehensive list of those. So unfortunately, my answer is I don't know, and I don't have a list of those. I can tell you that what I understand from account holders, as well as a little bit of my own, kind of just personal experience, LLCs are much more widely dealt with with exchanges than IRAs are directly. But in terms of a comprehensive list, unfortunately, I don't have one. And then to follow up another question about some of the logistics, what are the two exchanges that we have direct relationships with? So they are in two different stages. So one is ErisX, ErisX, and you can find it at erisx.com. That direct relationship is functioning. All the logistics of that are functioning. The next one is a little bit more new to us, so we have an agreement in place with them. It's called Crosstower, so you can find that at crosstower.com. And we will be perfecting some of the logistics still over the next couple of days. So, and we do have relationships that we are pursuing with other platforms as well. And if you have a platform or an exchange that you want us to contact and see if we can create a relationship, we will do that. This is an expanding area for us. We are not familiar with every exchange out there, and you may have one that you particularly want to work with, and we are happy to spend some energy trying to see if we can forge a relationship with them and create a relationship so that you can execute your strategy with them. So so that's what I have on those two. And then I'll say this about there's a question or a couple of questions that talk about the LLC and foreign assets. So specifically, can certain cryptocurrencies within an IRA LLC be deemed foreign assets? And if so, is there a tax ramification of that, et cetera, et cetera? So I will say, I'll answer it this way in a kind of a universal sense. The IRS does not prohibit IRAs from investing in foreign companies or real estate or cryptocurrency assets or any of that kind of thing. There's not really a boundary guidance that is given by the IRS in terms of your IRA's participation. That said, if you are investing in anything in a foreign country, if there are rules for that country that require some sort of action or that are taxed or not taxed or any of those things, the rules that are in place in that country can affect the IRA's bottom line and the way that the IRA operates. So it is something that is allowable, but it does come with in some cases, extra research. In some cases, there are some extra costs to it as well. That doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do or the right thing for you, but it does mean that it's worth looking into to see if it still satisfies your needs. I'm going to defer this one to you, Renika, since it was more in the world of things you were talking about. So there's a question: is there any platform where we can invest prior to any IPO of any decentralized crypto?
So there are platforms out there, but I don't know if they're going to allow you to do it in the actual IRA itself. There is one called P2P B2B. I can double check, but there are two platforms that you can look to acquire prior to IPO. I don't know if they're affiliated with any retirement accounts. That's a good inquiry I can follow up on.
Okay.
P2P B2B. So, or Launchpad is typically where you can go and find a crypto prior to IPO or directly on the actual project website.
Okay. And yep. Okay. And it's also possible that would be a changing environment. Is that accurate to say, Renika?
Absolutely. It's ever changing. Let's see. It's okay. P2P B2B.
Got it.
So I will type that in there.
Okay, a couple other logistical ones. Can I use the same LLC for checkbook control to buy crypto and real estate tax liens? The answer is yes. You can. That LLC that's owned by your IRA can invest in any or all of the allowable assets that are allowed for IRAs to buy. So you can definitely have the LLC buy crypto, real estate, physically, and tax liens. You could also have a regular stock brokerage account in that LLC as well. So you can. It is actually a strategy where you can have both publicly traded securities and alternative assets in kind of the same place. So the LLC has a lot of flexibility there. Does holding the foreign crypto assets affect the IRS reporting? For our perspective, all of the activity that goes on in an IRA would all be encompassed in our reporting for the IRA in the Form 5498. So from a custodial perspective, the answer to your question is no, the foreign asset wouldn't change the way that we report things to the IRS. Does that mean that there's no possibility that the foreign investment might have some sort of taxation, whether it's our IRS or taxation in the nationality where the investment is? I can't say that for a fact one way or another, but I can tell you that our IRA tax reporting is all encompassed in a Form 5498, and from our perspective, all we're really looking for is a fair market valuation each year as of December the 31st and a way to categorize it in the categories that are encompassed in a Form 5498. So foreign is not necessarily something that changes that reporting for us. There's a good question here that Renika and I were talking about earlier today. Can you store the wallet at home as an LLC? And this is another one where I'm afraid that I have to give you a less than definitive answer. Typically speaking, the LLC manager has discretion about the storage choices that are made for the cryptocurrency. There are a variety of things that you might look at from a legal perspective about whether you want to do that. One is there is a prohibition about providing services in the Internal Revenue Code when it comes to the IRA holder and any disqualified person. So is it possible that having the storage at home could be deemed providing services? There has not been there's no guidance that I know of or court case that I can point to specifically about that, but it's possible. And certainly the one that we've seen, there's a court case or a decision recently that we've seen more discussion about was about precious metals, because there actually has been some guidance about IRA-owned LLCs owning precious metals and storing them at home. And generally speaking, the IRS has been pretty forthright about the fact that they don't want to see that. And recently there was a court case, and I believe the plaintiff's name, or I shouldn't say that, the name that's attached to it is McNulty. And it was a case where, again, it was precious metals, but it did have to do with storage. And the decision essentially said that the unfettered access that the account holder had to the metals was not something that they were going to agree with. So whether that is going to end up affecting cryptocurrency storage or not, we don't have any information on that whatsoever. I absolutely encourage you to seek legal guidance on that. Again, we don't give any tax, legal, or investment advice, and we'd love to be able, and we are, up to date on, the code and the way it's written and things like that. But some things in the code are not written in super black and white, easily understood, or completely vetted language. And so when you come up against that, it's really a matter of seeking adequate legal opinion about it. So I wish I had a more direct, definitive answer for you there. Yes, this event was recorded, and you will be receiving an automatic link to the recording in the next day or so, and it also will show up on our YouTube channel in a day or so. So you will be able to review this at your leisure.
It's also posted on the Advanta IRA website as well. It's a great resource. All of our recordings are uploaded to our video library.
Yes. There's a question here. How much investing emphasis do you place on pre-mined, mineable, or inflation, deflation rates, DeFi, meme type for various cryptos? Those are all great questions. I'm going to give my 2 cents, and then Renika, if you want to chime in at all. A lot of that has to do with, I believe the way I'm reading the question has to do with investment choice, and that's something, again, that we don't get into. This does relate to a question that is also in the question box about, what kind of are cryptocurrencies, and how do you make choices about them, and what is their function? And I will say this, that while I can't actually, and we do not give investment advice or talk about, we don't have any position on how much you should or shouldn't invest in any of those cryptocurrencies or those the characteristics that you put in the question about a particular crypto. We don't have any view on that. But one of the things I will say for folks out there who are not super duper familiar with cryptocurrencies, that they are not all the same. they're not intended to be. It is a quirk of the vocabulary that we kind of call them all cryptocurrencies, but they are not all the same thing. And I think, Renika, you want to chime in a little bit about that?
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. There's over 12,000 cryptos out there. Most of them, have different use cases. In terms of the investment part of it, like Clay mentioned, we don't give advice, so we don't advocate for one particular crypto over the other. So you do have to do your due diligence, make sure that, whether it's a meme crypto, I know, again, meme typically is, it's used as a joke, but if it's a meme crypto that you're interested in and you've done your due diligence and you're comfortable with that decision, then, you can elect to invest in it. Obviously, too, based on whatever exchange that you go with, if it's available, then you can. But Advanta doesn't have we're a neutral party in terms of, hey, you tell us what investment you want to make, and as long as it's allowed by the IRS, then it's your discretion.
Yeah. And then I realize that we're kind of up at our time here, and so I think I'll take this last question, and then we will sign off for today. Absolutely happy to have you guys send in additional questions. If we go back through the list and find out something that we didn't answer, we will get you an answer via email. So don't worry about that. But the question that I have here that we're going to kind of wrap up with is, in terms of functionality and cryptocurrency investing, what are kind of the pros and cons? And I think at a very high level, the things that occur to me and the ones that I hear from people who call in and are opening accounts to invest in crypto are, first of all, there is the volatility for some people is very important. Volatility is considered to be by some people a way to make money, whether it's going up or down. And certainly I've heard that the possibility of a very outsized return, especially over time, is a very attractive thing. And so it is an investment that some investors feel like has an ability to have a very large return, which is often why they're using their Roth IRA or their HSA, so that the earnings are never taxed, assuming they take qualified distribution. There's a very low entry threshold when it comes to cash. So you can buy cryptocurrencies for less than a penny, some of them. So the fractionalization of even a Bitcoin is so small that your ability to invest with a small amount of money is attractive to a lot of people. The ability that it can be quite liquid quite quickly is also attractive to some people. So that it could be long term, but if there's an emergency, is it easy to get out of? Generally speaking, as long as you're okay with the price, it's pretty easy to liquidate. And that does depend again on how you have it structured and where it's stored and all that kind of stuff. So, I'm giving you kind of higher level conceptual things, but generally speaking, it's pretty liquid, or can be pretty quickly. So all of those things tend to be factors that I hear potential investors talking about in terms of cryptocurrency. So for somebody who is thinking about the way it works into their particular investment strategy or the rest of their financial world, I would say if you just look at the track record and the charts, there's a lot of volatility. So if you have a time when you absolutely know that you need to get out and back into cash or want to, you may have to face either a really high price or a really low price at any given time. So it does have some characteristics that are drawing people to it. I think it's important to be aware of what those characteristics are, because then you can decide, how and how much and what way you want to utilize that asset class as part of your overall financial strategy. So it's a great question. I'm going to go ahead and say thanks to everybody, and Renika, I'll let you go ahead and close it up, but I appreciate your attention, everybody, and hopefully this is helpful, and again, we'd love to be a long-term resource for you. Renika?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. If you have additional questions, don't hesitate to send them over to Clay and I, or we're happy to help you with your self-directing needs. Happy investing, everyone.